You can never outperform your self-image. And I'll give you an example. If somebody has been unhealthy or overweight for several years, their self-image, which is in their subconscious mind, has now identified with being overweight. And you can make a conscious decision, like everybody does every January 1st, I'm going to lose some weight. But deep down in your subconscious is the self-image. So you sabotage yourself to match the self-image.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior. And on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Boy, do we have a phenomenal guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a fellow Iranian. He is a brother from another mother. He is one of the world's leading thought leaders in the world of health, well-being, with special expertise in keto. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Ben Azadi. Welcome to the show, Ben.
I love that energy. I love that introduction, Nikki. I'm honored to be on your podcast. I love the work that you're doing, and I know we're going to have a fun, thought-provoking conversation. So thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you here, my brother. So listen, man, like I said to you off camera, the folks who come and listen to this are fellow entrepreneurs, and they don't come here for me. I'm here every week. They're here for you. They want to learn from you about how you built your powerful personal brand, your authority positioning. They want to know about your business and what you do as well. But before they can open their hearts to you, man, they got to get to know you. How'd you get to be the great Ben Azadi?
Yeah, well, from a lot of pain. And like so many out there who are living on purpose, it came from pain and then purpose. So for me, very unhealthy for most of my life. I was obese physically, mentally, bad behaviors as this first generation American being born in Miami, Florida. Parents immigrated from Iran in the 70s. I was born in 1984. And parents were divorced. They had an arranged marriage back in Iran, came to the United States and had a divorce. So I was pretty much left to my own devices. My mom was working 3 jobs as I was a kid, and she was raising me and my sister. And I had bad behavior. So drugs, video games, toxic relationships, addictions to alcohol, food, and really bad stuff. So as a kid, I was very unhealthy mentally and physically. And as an adult, nothing changed until 2007, where I found myself rock bottom. I wanted to give up on life and actually explored taking my own life. And every time I explored that, I thought about my mother, and I thought about the pain that it would cause her if I took my life. And I love my mom. She's my superhero. So I didn't want to cause that pain for her. So it forced me to figure things out. And it started with actually self-development and understanding thoughts and mindset before it was health and nutrition and fitness. So at this point, I started to get into the work of Bob Proctor, who's actually from Toronto, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Jim Rohn. And I just started reading self-development books to understand thoughts and how thoughts influence your decisions and behaviors and results. And I started to take ownership for the first time in my life. Before that, I was playing the victim card, and I was blaming my slow metabolism, my bad genetics, my enabling family members. But once I took ownership, all that went away. And so it started with ownership, started with taking responsibility. Then I started focusing on nutrition, started focusing on fitness. And I went through this really incredible transformation where I lost 80 pounds in 9 months. I went from obese to being very fit, transformed my physical appearance, but also my mental health. And I went from, a physical six-pack was great, but I also achieved what I call a mental six-pack, which I think is more important. So that was 17 years ago, Nikki. It got me into the health space, and there's been iterations of my career, my branding and marketing ever since. But that's what got me into the space, because I've been there myself. I was in pain. I had all these symptoms, and all doctors wanted to do was push medications on me. So I chose a lifestyle route instead of medication. And that's why I'm passionate now, because I've been there and I know that there are lifestyle changes you can make to either prevent medication, get off medication, and allow your body to heal itself.
That's a hell of a story, man. and there's a lot to unpack there. But I want to start with something you said near the end of your monologue, which is all the doctors wanted to do was to push medication on me. I found this to be true myself, day in and day out, with a lot of different things in the conventional, traditional medical system. Why do you believe this to be the case?
It's a cash cow. It's a brilliant subscription model. In the United States, and Canada is probably not too far behind, but in the United States, we spend $4.6 trillion on healthcare every year. If that was a GDP, that would be the fourth largest GDP in the entire world. And you might think, okay, we spend that amount on healthcare. We must be one of the healthiest nations in the world. Top 5? Nope. Top 15? Nope. Top 30? No, we're 37 in the world. Yet pharmaceutical companies are richer than ever before, and we are sicker than ever before. So the reason why we have this strong hold on medication is because there's a lot of profit. There's a lot of money. Empty hospital beds don't earn income, right? A cured patient is a lost customer. So I'm not a cynical person, but I'm also a realistic person. I'm a realist. So I used to say, Nikki, that the system is broken. I no longer say that. Now I say the system is actually operating exactly the way that it was designed. It's a cash cow. So that's why there's these TV commercials. I mean, dude, here's something that's crazy. There are only 2 countries in the entire world that allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise on TV. Just 2, New Zealand and the United States. About 75% of all the TV commercials in the United States are funded directly by big pharma. So there's a lot of money. That's the reason why.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I believe the scamdemic was all about that as well. Let's face it, people did not need to take that experimental shot that they pretended was a vaccine, right? And far too many people were forced to do it because big pharma had allies in government that were under their control, and they pushed this. They
especially in Canada
as a good big time. And I got to tell you, I'm very glad that myself and my girlfriend stood strongly against this. The overwhelming majority of the people in our family even decided to do it, which was not what I would have chosen for them. But it's a free country, and you can choose to do what you want, even if it's a dumb decision. So we understand big pharma, who they are, what they're all about. Why is it that voices like yours are not louder and bigger?
Well, part of the reason why is because of censorship. And it was really bad during the, as you call it, scandemic times. I remember YouTube videos getting taken down. I remember being threatened by YouTube to have my channel canceled. I remember, get this. Okay. Speaking of the shot, I did a whole 90-minute interview with a brilliant health practitioner, and we went through this entire masterclass on vaccine-damaged individuals, millions of people that got vaccine damaged.
Yeah.
And we put together our thoughts on the research and some solutions. How do you overcome this problem? Because a lot of people are dealing with it. And the video started to take off, 100,000 views, 200,000 views, 300,000 views, and then boom, YouTube takes it down. And then YouTube freezes my account, and they give me this warning, and they email me and say, in order for you to unlock your account, you need to go through this online test, where it was essentially, Nikki, a digital concentration camp. Okay. I would have to answer 10 questions about censorship and answer them according to how they wanted me to respond in order to unlock my account, meaning like, is this misinformation? Is this misinformation? So I had to say yes to all these things just to unlock the account, right? That was a big issue during the COVID days. Now it's a little bit better, but there's still censorship happening. I had 7 or 8 videos taken off of Instagram and TikTok because they put that false information tag, and the whole account gets shadow banned. So it was really bad between 2020 and 2023 when Trump got reelected, and RFK's in now the working with the White House. it's a little bit more loose. And now there's a bigger conversation happening about metabolic health, about Make America Healthy Again. So I love to see it go in this direction. But the reason why voices like mine and others in my space don't have that mainstream voice is because of the censorship and the suppression over the years.
Yeah. I recently interviewed Dr. Ann Shippey. Do you know who she is?
I know of her. I don't know her personally, but her work is fantastic.
She's amazing, bro. You should listen to that interview on Thought Leader of
I will.
I'll dig it up and I'll send it to you. Bro, she did not want to get into this part of the discussion, but we started talking about, like, she started talking about what she talks about. I go, so you sound like a Maha girl. You sound like you're a Maha girl. And she goes, yeah. I said, you know Bobby Kennedy? She goes, actually, I got Bobby's cell phone number. When he was in Austin, I took him around here and introduced him to people. Like, we're good friends. I'm like, no kidding. Okay, like, I liked you before, now I like you 1,000 times more, right? Because of what you have to say. And
yeah,
this issue of censorship's a big deal. And I'm really glad that the Trump administration is starting to crack down on big tech companies that engage in censorship. And Google, you heard last week that they're apologizing for what they did, and they're saying that they were forced to do it by the Biden administration, and now they're going to reinstate all those canceled accounts.
Yeah,
there's a lot of pissed off people that are going to come after
Facebook
them.
too. Yeah,
I think there's going to be some big ass class action lawsuit. We'll see against all this.
Gotta be.
They're like, First Amendment, baby. You mess with the First Amendment, you're going to get the horns. Horns.
Yeah,
I'm going to rip you up. So, before we get into the business side of the conversation, Ben, give us an overview of your expertise and who you help, what it is that you do, and why it's important for them to listen to the things that you have to say on your platforms.
I've been in this health space for going on 18 years now. I think my authority doesn't necessarily come from my credentials and like experience in terms of functional health, but it really comes from being in that place of being very unhealthy and overcoming that. And I want that to kind of mirror
life experience, right? It comes from life experience, not book
life
learning.
Experience is the authority versus the credentials, right? So I could share the credentials. I've got 5 books. I just came out with this book, Metabolic Freedom, that hit the New York Times list. We are selling copies, and it's all over the place at airports, bookstores. It's like it's taken off, right?
Well, when am I getting my signed copy, bro? Come on,
I will get you a sign. You gave me one at the Vault in Orlando. I didn't have one with me at that time, but I will send you one, my friend.
I love it.
I promise. I promise.
Thank you. I want to read it. I'm excited.
I would love that. Yeah. So I'm all in with the Maha movement. As a matter of fact, there's an official Maha documentary. There's 4 different series, and they flew me out in February to Salt Lake City to record. They interviewed me for it. RFK's in it, and some of the top docs, and Shippy might be in it too. So I'm all in with that. Like, RFK's message is incredible. It's important. So my authority comes from, of course, 18 years being in the space. I've worked with 10,000 plus people, all walks of life. And on top of that, one of the cool things about at least the last 6 years in the space, I've been a part of this organization. It's my mentor's organization, Dr. Daniel Pompa, who's my mentor. He's the most brilliant. I call him the GOAT of health educators. So he's absolutely brilliant. So he's been my personal mentor, and he has a group of about 47 doctors that he trains. And I'm in that group. I'm not a doctor, but I'm in that group. And every Tuesday for the last 6 years, we hop on a Zoom call and we go over case studies. We go over lab work. We go over the research. We go over long COVID, vaccine injury stuff. So that has really helped me understand the human body and apply it to the tens of thousands of people that I work with. So there's a few things in terms of authority, but on top of all that, like, I've been there myself. I was overweight. I was unhealthy. I was chasing symptoms. I overcame all of that. Now I'm 41 and I feel the healthiest I've felt in my entire life. And I want that for every single person, no matter what their age is.
Yeah. So talk a little bit. Let's say someone's listening to this and, I don't know, they're overweight or they have bad habits like you used to have. Walk them through what they need to start thinking about. Let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, the first thing is something that I talk about actually in chapter 10 of my latest book, Metabolic Freedom, and that is they need to change the way they view themselves. It's called their self-image. Before you make any dietary change or fitness changes, the way you view yourself, called the self-image, will determine your results in life. You can never outperform your self-image. And I'll give you an example. If somebody has been unhealthy or overweight with symptoms for several years, their self-image, which is in their subconscious mind, has now identified with being overweight, with the symptoms, with the diagnosis. And you can make a conscious decision, like everybody does every January 1st, I'm going to lose some weight. But deep down in your subconscious is the self-image. So you will only go as far, so far, until you sabotage yourself to match the self-image. I'll give you an example to really help this make sense. Somebody is 50 pounds overweight, like a lot of the people I work with, and they say, I want to lose 50 pounds. So they go on a diet, they do keto, they do fasting, whatever it is, and they start to lose some weight, but they don't work on their self-image. Something happens about 3 weeks in or a month and a half in where all the progress they start making, they start to go backwards. They start to binge eat. They start to go to their old ways, their old behaviors, because they never change the self-image. It's still identified as an overweight person, and your body will continuously course correct to match the self-image. So the first step is to change that self-image. You need to change the way you view yourself at a subconscious level. And how you do that is simply writing down on an index card. Like I have here, I have this card here. Writing down on an index card that new self-image of yourself. Some people call it affirmations, but I'm telling you, you do that for 30 days and you read it every morning, every night. You do that for 30 days, and now you will replace the old image with this new image, and then you take off. You get amazing results. So that would be the first step. I would recommend working on the self-image.
Yeah, I agree that that's very powerful. I did a course this weekend with my sweetheart with Dr. Lise Janelle. Have you heard of her?
No.
So you should look into her. Lise, Lise, Janelle, Janelle. So she's got a book coming out with Jack Canfield, Mr. Chicken Soup for the Soul dude.
Yeah.
Coming out like imminently. And her whole deal is she does this thing called, this course we did was called the Emotional Freedom Weekend. And it's all about busting your self-image and subconscious at the cellular level. She does this muscle testing series of stuff to kind of get you to get what your real self-image is. She has a whole bunch of statements, and then she does stuff with your body. And it's difficult for me to describe it here without sounding especially technical. But all I can tell you is she rewires people's self-images with this. It's super cool. It's like bleeding edge stuff. I think you'd like it. I think you should look into her stuff, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. I'm definitely aligned with all of that. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, but please continue.
Yeah, that's it though. I mean, like it's all that stuff in your subconscious mind. It needs to be changed. And there's only two ways to change it. Constant spaced repetition, which was the affirmation idea, or an emotional impact.
Right.
Now, an emotional impact, it's usually a negative experience, and it's unpredictable. It's like a cancer diagnosis, the loss of a loved one, some scary situation changes the way you think, changes the way you live your life. Ideally, you don't want to go through that to change your self-image. You want to go through the repetition, which is the way it was built. So something like this, the muscle testing technique, the affirmations, the visualization, these are ways to accelerate that changing of the self-image. And you could do that very soon, like within 30 days, and in some cases sooner. So I would work on that. And then the second thing I would work on if we're thinking about getting healthy is to, very simple, start with single ingredient foods. And the reason why I call them single ingredient foods versus whole foods is because I have found, Nikki, that when I say just eat whole foods, there's a good percentage of people that don't know what that means. Which is surprising to me. A whole food is a single ingredient food. I'll give you an example. When you go to the supermarket and you look at a potato and you read the ingredient list of a potato, you see a single ingredient, potato. When you look at an avocado, you get a single ingredient. Beef, eggs, single ingredient. But when you go to the potato chip, there's 15, 20 ingredients. It's now the processed version. So a good start is to just eat foods. At least most of your foods should come from single ingredient foods. That would be a simple first start for most people.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I read Callie and Casey Means's book, Good Energy, last year.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I got out of that, okay, and I already do it, but still, it just hammered home, is get away from high processed foods, man. Get away from highly processed foods, single ingredient foods. That's what it said. I'm like, okay, I mostly do this anyways, but cool. It's a message that really hit with all the case studies and things they had in there. And then I signed up for Peterson Academy, Jordan Peterson's online university. And the first course I took was a nutrition course with Max Lugavere. And his stuff really hammered that home. So it's good to see highly respected people like you, like Max, and like
Casey and Callie
talk about this, because it really drives it home. Okay, great. So we got step one, we got step two. What's next?
Yeah, fasting, adopting some sort of fasting schedule. Fasting is nature's reset button. There's nothing new about fasting. It's just new to some people or nuanced. Every religion in the history of this world practices some form of fasting. When you get into a fasting schedule, and I'll share what I think is doable for most people in terms of a schedule. But first, let me just share the benefits. When you fast, your body does incredible things. Number one, you complete digestion. Okay, for entrepreneurs, this is very important. And I think Tony Robbins also said this when we were at the Vault, and he's spot on. And I always say this, when you eat a big meal, Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, and you stuff yourself, your first thought is not, I'm so focused and energized, let me go get some work done. No, your first thought is like, where's the couch? Let me throw on the game. And you become a couch potato, because it takes a lot of energy, blood flow, bandwidth to digest food. When you fast, there's a process that I talk about in Metabolic Freedom called energy diversion. So you take energy away from what would have been used for digestion, and you divert that to the brain, blood flow to the brain for healing, because you're done digesting food. So many people, especially in America, they're eating every 2 to 3 hours. And I got to say, one of the fastest ways to create inflammation and disease and shorten your lifespan is to eat every 2 to 3 hours. You will create disease fast. Fasting is the opposite of that. You have a eating window, you have a fasting window. So you clean up the gut, you send blood flow to the brain, you start melting fat, because your body burns through its sugar reserves, called its glycogen stores, and then it has to switch over to a different fuel source. Where does it get fuel from during a fast? Your body fat, your belly fat, especially something called visceral fat, which is the most inflammatory fat on your body that wraps around your organs, your kidneys, your heart, your liver, your pancreas. This is a highly inflammatory fat. And during a fast, your body uses that fat, pulls the fat from your organs. And I could go on and on and on about fasting, but fasting is going to be one of the best things you can do for your health as an entrepreneur, as a human being. And the best schedule that I tell my audience is an 18-6 daily fast. So what that means, out of a 24-hour period, for 18 hours, you are in a fasted state. You could only have water, tea, coffee, some supplements, electrolytes, no food for 18 hours. But then you have a 6-hour eating window. Let's say it's between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m., where you eat at 12 p.m., let's say you eat again at 3 p.m., and then you're done eating your third meal at 6 p.m. You get all your calories, all your nutrition within this 6-hour eating window. So you have 6 hours of digestion and getting in your calories, protein, nutrients, and then 18 hours of this fasting, cleaning out the junk process. That's a good daily schedule for most people. And then eventually, I would throw in a 24-hour water fast once a week. Typically, it's done Sunday to Monday, where you're done eating Sunday at 6 p.m. and then you wait until Monday at 6 p.m. to eat. But a 24-hour water fast has been shown to raise human growth hormone 2,000% in men after a 24-hour fast, and 1,300% in women after a 24-hour fast. Human growth hormone is anti-inflammatory, fat burning, muscle preserving, muscle building. It's a really important hormone, and there's a surge of it during a 24-hour fast. So that's the schedule, 18-6 daily, and then once a week, 24-hour fast. That is a fantastic protocol.
This is fabulous stuff. So what do you say to guys like me that are doing bodybuilding? Because that's right now, based on the meal plan that my bodybuilding coach has given me, I can't get that in 6 hours. So I got 6 meals a day I got to eat, brother, and I have a hard time getting it done in 10 hours, never mind 6 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So how does this affect someone who's like doing something like a bodybuilding program, or again, a high level sporting program that has them needing to eat a certain amount of food within the day?
I'll say that, having goals, bodybuilding goals, performance goals are usually not synonymous with like anti-aging, longevity, health goals. They're usually not the same thing. However, there is kind of a middle ground here, right? So if a 18-hour fast and only 6 hours is not enough to get in, I'm sure you're tracking your protein to get enough protein and all the things you need to get, you could expand the window. And instead of doing a 6-hour eating window, it could be an 8-hour eating window to give you some wiggle room. You could do things like take essential amino acids, creatine, protein shakes, different things you can do to kind of quick absorbing sort of foods to maximize the eating window. And you could also have a day where you don't get in all those meals. You don't hit your protein requirements. You might think, well, that's going to throw off the progress, but the body's very smart. It's okay to have a day where you don't hit your protein requirement, where you don't hit your caloric needs, because the body will get rid of damaged protein, damaged cells, and it'll raise human growth hormone, so you won't lose muscle. You'll lose just water weight and fat. So it's okay to have that once in a while, but for your situation, maybe expanding the eating window from 6 hours to 8 hours and maybe supplementing with creatine, which I think is a great thing for everybody to do, especially if you're working out. Creatine, 5 to 10 grams for men, is a good idea. And then essential amino acids, 10 grams a day would also be a good idea for you.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'd love to see some folks in the bodybuilding world come in together with some folks in your world and really look at this and do some studies around this, because I absolutely am interested in longevity, and I'm interested in certain performance metrics and goals from a bodybuilding point of view. So I'm 58 right now, and I'll be 60 in the summer of 2027. At that point in time, I'm able to go for my IFBB, International Federation of Bodybuilding, pro bodybuilding card for 60-year-olds. So during this time, I'm eating according to a plan, and there's not really much in the way of cheat days. There's been some swap out meals, and I definitely think that my coach would like it if I ate my meals a little bit closer together. But as it is, I'm eating every 2.5 hours. And sometimes I don't want to, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, fuck, man, I just ate. I'm not ready to eat the next meal.
Yeah.
But if I don't eat the next meal, then I won't finish all the meals for the day, and I got to answer to the coach. And that's never a fun process.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that with me. I'd really like to be able to see if there's anyone that's looking at merging high performance and longevity at the same time, because I'd be super interested in chatting with them. I'd love to talk to your mentor, Dr. Daniel Pompa. He sounds like he'd make a great guest as well.
He's the GOAT. Yeah, he's the absolute GOAT.
Does he do podcast interviews?
He not as much anymore, but sometimes he does.
All right. If he's up for it, I'd love to interview him.
Yeah, I'll tell him about you. I'll tell him that I was on your show as well. But I just want to add to what you just said.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is fantastic. I don't want to take away from like the discipline you're developing and the goal of competing at that when you're 60 years old. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Building muscle is so important, especially if you're over 40 and you're 58. Like it's so important. And the challenge, or I should say the detrimental effects of bodybuilding is more for long-term bodybuilders. Okay, if you did something like what you're doing now for 20 years, there's going to be some detrimental effects. It's going to shorten your lifespan. I know that from the literature. The average bodybuilder lives about 12 years less than the average person, okay? But if you're doing it because you're hitting this goal, you're doing it for the next few years, you're developing this discipline, you're putting on muscle, and it's not a long-term 20-year thing,
no,
that's not an issue, right? And you could have some times, even with the protocol you're doing now, where you tell your coach, like, because you want to balance, and I don't want to get too technical here and lose your audience, but you want to balance two pathways right now. There's a pathway called mTOR, which is growth, anabolic, and you're getting a lot of that by eating protein, eating every 2 or 3 hours, getting your calories. The opposite of that mTOR pathway is autophagy, which is more cleanup, catabolic, It's the opposite, and that's what you get during a fast. And when you're eating, you get mTOR. When you fast, you get autophagy. The problem with eating all the time for years is that you're constantly in mTOR, and it signals growth, 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 and that could be an issue long term. So there needs to be some autophagy, some cleaning up of yourself. So you could do that by continuing to do your routine, Nikki, but throwing in a 24-hour fast once a week, where there's no way you'll get your calories, you won't eat your meals on that day, but you start to balance out 6 days of feasting, mTOR, getting your calories and nutrients with 1 day of a fast and autophagy. That would be a good balance to what you're doing, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely want to bring this to the coaches. I mean, I follow the coach's coaching. That's like when you hire a coach, you got to listen to the coach.
I get it. Me too.
I'm 100% like, you know what? There's people who come and tell me advice, and I go, I appreciate your advice, but I got a coach, and
respect.
That's the way it's going to go.
Same. I'm the same way.
But I'm definitely interested in learning about this, because once I hit that goal, the rest of my objective is I want to maintain a certain physical standard. And I want to really focus and double down on longevity and maximizing organ health and brain health and all that good stuff, because that really is where the focus needs to go once I hit these particular targets. So Ben, we talked about changing your self-image. We talked about starting with single ingredient foods. We talked about adapting some sort of fasting routine. What's next?
Sleep is we hear all the time, but sleep is the foundation of health. We actually burn more fat and more calories during sleep than we do working out. Okay, there are 2 stages of sleep. One is called REM. Well, there's 4 stages of sleep, but 2 important ones. One is called REM sleep, rapid eye movement. This is where your body is using a lot of calories to process your memories from the day, from short-term memory to long-term memory. So for entrepreneurs, this helps with your focus, mental clarity, productivity. This is really important to get enough REM sleep. Then we have deep delta sleep. You're also burning a lot of calories. You're activating your fat-burning hormones, growth hormone, testosterone, T3, and others. And you're actually detoxifying the brain, lowering inflammation. It's really, really important. So one of the things that I have all my students do is to track their sleep. And I tell them, because it's not about getting 8 hours of sleep a night. It's not about the quantity. It's about the quality. So I tell them not to focus on total sleep, but instead to focus on those 2 stages of sleep, REM and deep, and with the goal of getting 90 minutes, an hour and a half of each of those stages of sleep each night. 90 minutes of REM, 90 minutes of deep. And you could track it. I don't know if you track your sleep, Nikki, but I have this Aura ring that I wear. It tracks my sleep. Yeah. Apple Watches, there's Whoop bands. And if you're not getting enough deep and REM sleep, it's good to know that, because then you could do some things to improve your deep and REM sleep. And I could share some tips on how to do that. But I would track your deep and REM and aim to get 90 minutes of each of those phases of sleep every night. And you're going to get some great fat loss, detox, anti-inflammatory. It's going to be fantastic.
So I'll tell you what, brother, because we have limited time today, we're just going to wrap up talking about this stuff. And I'm going to bring you back on to have the business talk, because I don't want to just do 2 minutes on the business.
Yeah.
Because that's just, you and I, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you were telling me about some of the business stuff you did. And I'm super interested in it, but I'll make sure that we book it as soon as we finish wrapping up. Okay. So we're talking about self-image. You never outperform a bad self-image. So you got to change your self-image, right? And you got to start with single ingredient foods, also known as whole foods. You got to adopt some sort of fasting protocol. That's super important. And then you got to optimize your sleep, REM sleep, delta sleep. You need 90 minutes of each per night. And there's got to be a way for you to track some of that. All right. Got it. What else?
You nailed it. That's pretty good. What else would be to get steps every single day? Okay. When I say steps, I'm not talking about long distance running or jogging. I am talking about walking. Walking is the king of fat loss, believe it or not.
Really?
Especially when you do it the right way. And I'll explain what I mean and how many steps to get. But walking helps with longevity. There's a study that I put in my book, Metabolic Freedom, that had 50,000 people in the study. And it showed that the individuals who got 5 to 7,000 steps per day had a 65% less likelihood of dying from all-cause mortality compared to those who got less than 3,000 steps a day. Like it dramatically extended their lifespan. And 5 to 7,000 steps is not a lot of steps. So I would say the bare minimum is to get 7,000 steps a day. If you're looking to get rapid fat loss in a healthy way, then you want to get over 10 to 14,000 steps a day. And you want to make sure you go for a walk after your biggest meal of the day, which typically for most people is dinner. So when you go for a 30-minute walk after your biggest meal of the day, it's going to have a lot of benefits. It helps with digestion, but it also prevents this big glucose spike after eating that meal. Because what happens is you're going to go walk and you're going to use that sugar from the meal, the glucose, for energy versus fat storage. So less insulin is produced, meaning less fat storage happens. You're going to go faster into this fat burning state. So 7 to 14,000 steps a day, depending on where you're at and your goals, and then go for a 30-minute walk after your biggest meal of the day. You'll have more energy. You'll have better digestion. You'll lose belly fat. It'll extend your lifespan, and it helps with your ideas and with your focus and mental clarity. There's a lot of benefits to walking.
You know, you're 1,000% right. Whenever I walk, I have good ideas that come
Same.
Into my brain. And I live near a lake here in Toronto, Lake Ontario. It's a 5-minute walk from my house. It's gorgeous, winter, summer, cold or warm. It's always nice. And it's very soothing. And going for a walk there absolutely is a game changer.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so number 5, get steps every day. 5K to 7K steps a day, reduces your chances of dying from all-cause mortality by almost 2/3. And rapid fat loss is 10K to 14K steps a day. And there's got to be a 30-minute walk after your biggest meal of the day for all the reasons that you just said. All right, great. So that's 5. What else?
That's good. It's a good recap, by the way. I love it. You're a great host.
Thank you.
I would, on top of that, all the things we just mentioned, I would add this. You want to remove processed fats from your diet. They're called seed oils, vegetable oils. I talk a lot about them in chapter 4 of my book. These seed oils are more inflammatory than sugar, and in some cases, more inflammatory than tobacco, cigarette smoking. They're in 80% of our food supply in the United States.
Wow.
They're at all these healthy restaurants, fancy restaurants. They're all over the place. And here's something that's crazy that I put in the book. There is a toxicologist named Dr. Martin Grudfeld. And he looked at French fries, fried in vegetable oil. And he was analyzing a toxin called aldehydes. Aldehydes are what's considered carcinogenic, cancer-causing. So when somebody smokes a tobacco cigarette, it increases aldehydes in the body, which is why smoking is linked to cancer. And what he found in this study is that 25 French fries were equivalent to smoking 25 tobacco cigarettes. In other words, one French fry cooked in vegetable oil, when you eat it, is equivalent to smoking one tobacco cigarette. Okay, that's why they are inflammatory. So for your audience, here's the list of the bad ones, and I'll give you the healthier swaps. The bad ones are going to be canola oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, and then we have rice bran oil and grapeseed oil. These are inflammatory oils. They're called polyunsaturated fats. So what do we swap them for? What are we looking for? We want to actually consume saturated fats. Yeah, they've been villainized, but they're actually the healthiest fats for your body. And monounsaturated fats. So the healthier swaps, the healthier options are going to be butter, ghee, coconut oil, beef tallow, olive oil, and avocado oil. That swap right there will help lower inflammation in your body. And I didn't even mention this, Nikki. The bad fats, the half-life of those bad fats in your body is 680 days, which means when you stop eating those bad fats I mentioned, 2 years later, half of them still remain in your body, creating low-grade inflammation. And it takes about 6 years for 95% of those fats to get removed from your body. That's why they're worse to me than sugar and smoking.
That's awful, man. That's
Crazy.
awful. And, Bobby Kennedy's been talking about this, and Shippey talked about this. It's featured in the Good Energy book. It's featured in Max Lou-Guevara's book. I got to tell you, this is a message that I've taken to heart. In the past, I bought hook, line, and sinker the line about, hey, you want to look at getting rid of things like butter, beef tallow, lard, things like that. And I didn't use canola oil. I primarily used olive oil, thankfully. But I went to restaurants and they used all this shit, right?
Yeah.
My mother, God bless her, she used to use butter to make tahdig, but then all of a sudden they're telling her butter's bad, so she starts using canola oil because that's the Canadian thing. I go, Mom, go back to butter. Get rid of that crap. Butter, no more seed oils. I'm throwing them all out. And she's like,
yes.
Like Persian mothers. You know what they're like, right? Like,
yes.
You mess with their kitchen, they're going to kill you, right? So it's really fabulous. It's really fantastic.
That's awesome. I love that.
So, brother, this has been a spectacular interview. We'll bring you back on for the business conversation. So tell us about the book. Where can people get it? And tell us why it makes a great gift with Christmas coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, it's perfect actually for a Christmas gift because the book was actually, and I'll show it here. The book was written for the masses. It was written for the 93% of Americans that are metabolically unhealthy. That's actually our study. And it's been endorsed by some of the greatest people in the world. Casey Means, Gary Brecka, my mentor, Dr. Pompa. Anyways, the book, it goes through the problems. The first half of the book talks about, here are the main causes of metabolic disease. Second half of the book talks about the solutions, and then it's all tied together in a 30-day plan to achieve metabolic freedom. And I've had thousands of people go through this 30-day plan, and one guy lost 44 pounds in 30 days doing the plan. Most people lose about 15 to 20 pounds. This first guy was very overweight and obese. The book's available everywhere. It's called Metabolic Freedom. It's available at bookstores. It's available on Audible, Spotify. I narrated that myself. But I also have, what I've been giving out, Nikki, is a free course on the metabolism with exclusive interviews for anybody who buys the book over at metabolicfreedombook.com. There's some free goodies and giveaways if you want to get it there. But that's the book. It's a great gift for your husband, your wife, for yourself, for your children. It really is an eye-opening book, and it's not too technical. Yeah, there's 215 studies and citations, but I wrote it in a way where everybody could kind of read this and be like, yeah, that makes sense. And then give you the actual steps to take forward versus just giving you information, but it's actually giving you a plan at the end of the book.
Man, I'm so glad we met at the Vault, man.
Me too, bro.
I have really enjoyed our connection. I enjoyed this interview. So we end off each episode by asking you, our guest expert, for your top 3 expert action steps. These are your 3 best pieces of advice for success for the listener in bullet point form. So what say you?
First one is going to be to get vitamin G every single day. I talk about vitamin G in chapter 10. Vitamin G is anti-inflammatory, fat-burning, extends your lifespan, and it's vitamin gratitude. It's the feeling of gratitude. It's a supplement. So every day, get a daily dose of vitamin G.
Love it.
Second one is to live on purpose with your purpose. Okay? It's one of the best ways to have energy, vitality, and extend your lifespan. So have goals that you love and pursue those goals. Have purpose, live on purpose with that purpose. Nikki, you are an example of that, my friend. The third one is to continue to show up and listen to Nikki's podcasts. Continue to play audiobooks. I'm not saying that to just like butter you up. I'm saying that because it's like when you put this information in your brain every day, these podcasts, these books, and you're not putting the news and all the BS out there, it changes the way you think. It changes your self-image. It changes your belief system. It changes your behaviors, your results, your destiny. So inundate your brain with information like this. Stay off of the news. Stay off of toxic social media feeds. And if you have people in your life that are gossiping and complaining, cut them out. Set boundaries. Like surround yourself with thought leaders and forward-thinking people like Nikki and your podcasts and messages like this. So those are the 3 steps. Vitamin G, live on purpose with your purpose, and cut out the BS with the great information like this podcast.
God bless you, brother. So, guys, Ben Azadi is the real deal. Go grab his book, metabolicfreedombook.com. Make sure that you buy extra copies and give them out as gifts. Health is the crown on the head of the well person that only the sick person can see.
It's good.
Think about that. If you got health, you got everything. If you don't have health, you got nothing. The richest man in the world will give all of his wealth for one more day of health. Just think.
So true.
It is so true. So, Ben, brother, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, powerful message right there. 100% agree with you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm grateful we've met at the Vault, and you were such a great guy. Handed me your book, signed it for me. I'll get you my book signed. So thank you. I appreciate the relationship, my friend.
Ditto. God bless you, man.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.